This is the Code to Cash podcast.
So when we talk, the creative strategy, and then you move it into like a quote to cash conversation. That is where you earn your operational chops, right? You got to be able to kind of fit the square peg into a round hole. I've implemented probably half a dozen CPQ type of systems within sales organizations, and so I can't really say that there's one like tool that is just like, hey, plug and play, let's go. And so what I look for in a system, one, you have to have a system. I've seen amazing spreadsheets that are used for pricing at billion-dollar companies. If you can figure out operationally how to make something like that work and it's compliant, and go for it. If it's Salesforce CPQ, old steel brick, or if it's Monetize Now, or if it's Deal Hub, or that is less of a concern for me. It's not a pitch of like, hey, use this product, it's amazing.
Yeah.
The trick is, again, people over process. If you can find a CPQ system, a quote to cash system that is designed to enable your sellers to present the best experience to their customer, you win.
Interesting.
Instead of designing it from, and every quote to cash system has this. This is why it exists. Compliance.
Yeah.
No contract errors, no pricing errors, calculation errors. That's why you create the system. You move out of Excel, you give less control to the reps. But if you can create the experience of understanding the typical stuff, a quick example on the configuration side and the quoting side, most reps are quoting almost the exact same thing every time. And if they have to click 25 boxes to do it because they have these 25 line items,
it's tiring.
Can we not create a bundle internally that says like, this is the standard, and then I'm going to take out this and this, or like remove the repetitive processes from your system, and sales reps will love you. And as long as that's compliant, leadership will love you. But it all comes down to, how do I deliver the best experience to my customer, not to my executives, right? And that's where, from a revenue operations standpoint, you have to convey that. It can't be a because I said so type of a thing, or you'll only get half of the value out of that system or process. And so for me, you start at the back end of the process, kind of start with the end in mind type of a concept of, what do we want this to look like? I need speed. I need, a customer says, hey, we're ready to go. I want to be able to produce a quote in minutes, to make it fast.
Yeah.
So, okay, that's a goal. I want the contract, the output document, to be so stinking simple that the CEO can pick it up and know exactly what it is without having to be, someone explaining it to them. Because honestly, right now, the chances of me getting a meeting with my CEO at the end of the quarter to review a buying contract, he's dealing with sales. He's dealing with other stuff. And so I want it to be so stinking simple at the output. Then I kind of back my way into, how do we get it signed real easily? There's got to be a mechanism there of creating the transaction. Then you go to, how do we automate all of the data that's in the contract back into Salesforce? That's kind of where nobody else needs to really be bothered with that. I got to figure it out. My team's got to figure it out. And then you transition to, how do we configure it? How do we configure it on the front end to get all of that the way we want it? And that's how you determine your system.
Makes sense.
When you're determining a quote to cash process, start with that stuff. Don't start with, hey, we've got this pricing model and we need to be able to do these bundles, and because you'll get an implementation guy on the other side that builds all that out and has no regard for how easy it is, all of the other stuff. So if you start with end in mind, you're likely to get the best product up front and go through that. CPQ in my career is the most impactful, but yet most complicated implementation that your sales team will ever be a part of. And so build that in and make sure that you can build out the entire model in a sandbox or something before you buy. Because if you don't, if you take the word of a sales rep, no offense to sales reps, but vision is not always reality. And CPQ is one that I've seen be very messy many times, that quote to cash, because there's so many important pieces in it. And so so from a process standpoint, without getting into the very specifics of, hey, build it this way, do it this way, start with the end in mind. Start with the ideal customer experience, both internally and externally. Back your way into that configuration piece. And if you do that, your system will enable the people, both customer and internal, more than it will be a system. It will just become their world at that point, and sales reps will love it.
Makes sense.